I finally saw the new Wonder Woman movie, and I really liked it. In fact, I thought Gal Gadot, I think that's how you pronounce her name, she did an excellent job in the lead role as Wonder Woman. So if you haven't seen the movie, you should definitely check it out. But I am not here to critique the movie. I am here, however, to critique the science in the movie. Now, if you saw the movie, you will know that there was a heavy emphasis on war being waged using chemical weapons. Now, although there is indeed a notable history of diabolical scientists creating terrible chemical weapons to wage war with, most scientists that I know are actually working to develop products and ideas that will do positive things for the world to benefit from. Now, the movie made a point of saying that Dr. Moreau's new compound was a hydrogen-based mustard gas instead of a sulfur-based mustard gas. Now, from a chemical standpoint, this doesn't make sense, and here's why. Well, hydrogen is the first element on the periodic table, and it only has one electron to bond with. This is what hydrogen looks like to a chemist. Lewis dot structure. This dot right here represents hydrogen's lone electron. We have all become very familiar with hydrogen in the molecule known as water. You'll see here there are two hydrogens, H2, and one oxygen, O. Well, you'll notice that the hydrogen is bonded to the oxygen only by this one bond, and the same thing is true of this hydrogen over here. Because hydrogen has no more electrons, it can't bond to multiple other elements. Sulfur, however, is different. Now, before I get started, I must admit I'm a little biased because most of my research actually focuses on sulfur-based reactions. But I personally think that sulfur is one of the most interesting elements on the periodic table. Now, sulfur can have as many as 6 bonds, in contrast to hydrogen only being able to have 1 bond. So what you see here is actually a sulfur as a central atom of an octahedral arrangement. This is what we call a dash and wedge representation. The dashes are bonds that go on the opposite side of the plane of this whiteboard. The wedges represent bonds that are on this side of the plane of the whiteboard. And these 2 bonds right here are within the plane. In this instance, sulfur would actually have 6 bonds. But in mustard gas, sulfur actually only has 2 bonds, and it is the central atom. These R's right here just represent the rest of the elements that sulfur is bonded to. We call this a substituent, the R groups. So if I were to replace sulfur with hydrogen, I'd end up with a hydrogen that has 2 bonds. Now, as you'll recall from earlier in this video, hydrogen can't have 2 bonds. And so this is problematic. And this is why what they described in the movie, a hydrogen-based mustard gas, actually doesn't make much sense from a chemist's standpoint. I will say that there are plenty of elements on the periodic table that the writers of the movie could have used instead of hydrogen to replace sulfur. Hydrogen definitely isn't one of them. Finally, mustard gas, it doesn't actually vaporize. Therefore, calling it a gas is a bit of a misnomer. It actually disperses by being sprayed out as a mist of tiny liquid droplets. And what this means is that in the climax of the movie, where pilot Steve Trevor took an airplane full of this new hydrogen-based mustard gas and flew it up into the sky, and then sacrificed his life by detonating the plane to get rid of all the mustard gas, he actually probably made things worse. That's because at that height, with wind currents, he actually would spread the mustard gas over a greater area, therefore hitting potentially more people. In fact, spraying mustard gas out of airplanes is one of the methods in which mustard gas has been used in warfare. Again, if you have not seen the movie, you should definitely go check it out. It's worth it. But these chemistry missteps in the movie just show that before Hollywood goes portraying chemistry in movies like this, perhaps they should call up a chemist or two to make sure that the movie is chemically sound. Now, I know there are some people who will say, Dr. Boyd, you're taking this way too seriously. It's just a superhero movie. Trust me, I'm not. But I do think for some of us, the movie would be that much cooler if the science were believable. I'll see you next time.